The blue skies above New York City darkened as the massive Xeraxian ship entered Earth's atmosphere. People stopped in the streets looking up with fear and wonder. This was not how humanity expected to meet aliens for the first time. Commander John Miller stood on the roof of the United Nations building. His uniform was pressed and perfect, but his hands shook slightly. As head of the Global Defense Force, he was chosen to make first contact. Next to him, Admiral Lisa Wright checked her tablet one last time. "Our satellites show another 20 ships in orbit," she whispered. "We have nothing that can match their technology." John nodded. "Then we better hope they come in peace." The alien ship stopped 500 feet above them. It was the size of 10 aircraft carriers put together. Its dark metal surface reflected no light, like it was made of pure shadow. A beam of purple light shot down, and 3 tall figures appeared on the rooftop. The aliens were over 7 feet tall with scaled skin that shimmered between green and gold. They wore armor that seemed to move like liquid. The one in the middle stepped forward. Her head was crowned with what looked like living crystal. "I am Ambassador Krell of the Xeraxian Empire," the alien said in perfect English. "Our language systems have analyzed your communications. We speak to you on behalf of Empress Vex'Alia, ruler of 3,000 worlds." John stepped forward. "I am Commander Miller. We welcome you to Earth and hope for peaceful relations between our peoples." The ambassador made a sound like rocks grinding together. The humans later realized this was Xeraxian laughter. "Peace is available to those who serve the Empire appropriately," Krell said. "Your world has resources we require. Your water is particularly pure. Your minerals are useful. Your planet will now contribute to the glory of the Empire." Admiral Wright stepped forward. "We're happy to discuss trade agreements, but Earth is a sovereign planet." The ambassador touched a device on her wrist. Suddenly the sky filled with hundreds more ships. "Perhaps I was unclear," Krell said. "This is not a negotiation. The Empress has claimed your world. You will provide tribute or face elimination. Your species is young and primitive. Be grateful we find you useful enough to keep alive." Within days, Xeraxian ships landed in every major city on Earth. Their technology was centuries beyond anything humans had developed. Their weapons could level mountains. Their shields could stop nuclear weapons. The world's military forces tried to fight back, but it was like throwing rocks at a hurricane. 1 week after first contact, Earth's leaders signed the Treaty of Submission. Humanity was now a protectorate of the Xeraxian Empire. Admiral Wright stood in the hangar of Earth's largest space station. She watched as Xeraxian soldiers placed control devices on Earth's pathetic fleet of space vessels. Tears rolled down her face as she surrendered the access codes. "Your ships are primitive but will be useful for local resource transport," the Xeraxian commander told her. "You will continue to operate them under our direction." In Washington, D.C., Senator Kate Donovan sat in an emergency session of Congress. The Xeraxian ambassador stood before them listing the Empire's demands. "Each region of your world will meet these resource quotas," Krell announced. "You will cease all military space development. Civilian space travel will be permitted only with Empire approval. All technological advances must be submitted for review." Kate wrote notes furiously. She circled the word resistance 3 times. "What happens if we refuse?" asked a brave congressman. Krell touched her wrist device again. On screens around the room, they watched as a Xeraxian ship fired a beam at an uninhabited island in the Pacific. The island vanished, leaving only boiling ocean in its place. "Does that answer your question?" Krell asked. In the months that followed, humanity adapted to their new reality. Xeraxian overseers established bases around the planet. Massive mining operations began in previously protected areas. Great ships carried Earth's water and minerals to distant worlds. Dr. Alan Foster worked in his lab beneath the Rocky Mountains. Before the invasion, he had been developing new propulsion systems for NASA. Now his facility was officially shut down. But deep underground, hidden from Xeraxian scanners, he continued his work. "They've got the technology to cross the stars," he told his team. "But they're arrogant. They don't think we can understand their science. They're wrong." Alan's team had salvaged pieces of Xeraxian technology from damaged ships. They worked day and night to understand the alien science. "We can't beat them with what we have now," Alan said, "but they don't know what we're capable of building." 6 months after the invasion, Kate Donovan met John Miller in an old bomb shelter 20 stories beneath New York. They had carefully avoided Xeraxian surveillance to reach this place. "The people are ready to fight back," Kate said. "We need a plan." John shook his head. "Fighting now would be suicide. We need time. We need to build something they don't expect." "How long?" Kate asked. "Years," John replied. "Maybe decades. We need to appear broken while secretly preparing." Kate looked skeptical. "The people won't accept Xeraxian rule for decades." "They'll accept it if they know we're working to free them," John said. "We need your help to organize a global resistance. Not to fight now, but to gather intelligence and prepare for the day we can fight back." They were joined by Admiral Wright and Dr. Foster. Together they formed the core of what would become Operation Phoenix. "I've made a breakthrough," Alan explained. "Their faster-than-light technology is based on principles I was already exploring. With the right resources, we could build ships that could match theirs." "Where would we get the resources?" Lisa asked. "They monitor everything." John smiled for the first time since the invasion. "Not everything. They're watching Earth, but they're barely paying attention to the rest of our solar system. Mars, Jupiter's moons, the asteroid belt. We could build there." "Build what?" Kate asked. "A fleet," John said. "Not just a few ships. Thousands of them. They think we're primitive, so they won't expect us to create something that can challenge their empire." "This will take more than just ships," Lisa added. "We need weapons, shields, trained crews, and we need to do it all in secret," Kate said. They worked through the night, planning what would become humanity's greatest undertaking. Operation Phoenix would be carried out in hidden facilities throughout the solar system. On Earth, people would pretend to accept Xeraxian rule while secretly supporting the resistance. As dawn broke over a conquered Earth, 4 humans had planted the seeds of liberation. In the years to come, those seeds would grow into a force that would shock the galaxy. The Xeraxians believed they had found just another primitive species to exploit. They had no idea they had awakened humanity's greatest strength, the determination to be free. 20 years passed under Xeraxian rule. On the surface, Earth seemed fully under control. Massive ships came and went, taking Earth's resources to distant worlds. Xeraxian towers stood in every major city. Humans worked in mines and factories, providing the Empire with what it demanded. Colonel Steve Garcia walked through an underground tunnel deep beneath the Atlantic Ocean. At 52, his hair had turned gray, but his eyes still burned with determination. He placed his hand on a scanner and massive doors opened before him. "Status report," he said as he entered the command center. "All systems normal, sir," said Lieutenant Kelly Ross. "The Xeraxian patrol passed overhead an hour ago. They detected nothing." Steve nodded and looked at the massive screen showing the hidden shipyard. 100 feet below the ocean floor, protected by special materials that blocked Xeraxian scans. Humans had built something amazing. A supercarrier, 5 kilometers long, floated in an artificial cave. It was just one of dozens being built, in secret locations around the world. "How many are complete now?" Steve asked. 342 on Earth, Kelly replied. "The lunar facilities have completed 120. Mars reports 206 ready. The Jupiter shipyards are ahead of schedule with 415. Steve smiled. "Almost halfway there." On Mars Colony, the official Xeraxian records showed a small mining operation with 3,000 human workers. The reality was very different. Deep underground, nearly 50,000 engineers and scientists worked on the most advanced technology humanity had ever created. Ryan Phillips stood in his lab, watching as robots tested his latest shield design. At 45, he had spent half his life working on this project. His wife, Dr. Samantha Phillips, worked at a desk nearby, her fingers moving quickly over a holographic keyboard. "The new shield absorbs 98% of energy weapons," Ryan said, "and it can redirect that energy to our own weapon systems." Samantha looked up from her work. Athena can process tactical decisions 30% faster than the latest Xeraxian battle computers. We've run 10,000 simulations. We win in 87% of scenarios. Their daughter, Olivia, entered the lab. At 23, she had never known a free Earth. She had grown up on Mars, training to become a pilot. Mom, Dad, I just got back from Saturn. The USS Defiance performed perfectly in all tests. The stealth systems kept us completely hidden in the rings. Ryan hugged his daughter. I worry about you out there. Olivia smiled. Someone has to test these ships, and I'm the best pilot we have. A message alert sounded on all their devices. They looked at the screen and saw news from Earth. Xeraxian forces had killed 300 humans during food riots in Chicago. The aliens had decided to make an example of the protesters. They're getting worse, Samantha said quietly. They're getting nervous, Ryan corrected. Their sensors have detected unusual energy signatures. They know something's happening, but they can't figure out what. Olivia's face hardened. How much longer before we're ready? Admiral Chen says 6 more months, Samantha replied. We need at least 1,500 supercarriers to ensure victory. Back on Earth, in a bunker beneath the ruins of what was once Denver, Admiral William Chen met with the leaders of Operation Phoenix. 20 years older and wearing the scars of Xeraxian punishment, these were the people who had kept hope alive. The Empress has ordered me to attend the annual tribute ceremony next month, William said. She wants to remind everyone of Earth's submission. Perfect timing, said Kate Donovan, now 75 years old but still sharp as ever. Are we ready? Dr. Alan Foster, his hair white and his hands shaking slightly from age, nodded. The final systems are in place. All ships are connected to the quantum network. We can coordinate the entire fleet instantly across the solar system. What about casualties? Asked Lisa Wright. When we reveal ourselves, the Xeraxians will strike at civilian targets. We've evacuated as many people as we could to the underground cities, John Miller said. But yes, there will be losses. There's no way around that. William looked at each face around the table. We've waited 20 years, prepared, built in secret. Some of us won't live to see a free Earth, but our children will. On Jupiter's moon Europa, beneath its icy surface, President Michelle Rodriguez inspected the largest of humanity's hidden shipyards. 20 massive supercarriers floated in a vast underwater hangar. Each ship was a miracle of engineering, designed to outclass anything in the Xeraxian fleet. How do they look? Asked Fleet Admiral Paul Jackson, who would command the first wave. Like freedom, Michelle replied. Are your crews ready? Paul nodded. They've trained their entire lives for this moment. Many were born in these hidden bases. They've never seen an open sky on Earth, but they're ready to fight for it. Michelle touched the hull of the nearest ship, the USS Liberty. When I was elected as the underground government's president, I promised to see Earth free before my term ended. I've served 15 years now. Just a few more months, Madam President, Paul said. The full fleet will be ready. Throughout the solar system, the final preparations were made. Hidden factories produced the last components. Crews ran final simulations. Stealth ships moved into position. Operation Phoenix was nearly complete. On the Xeraxian flagship orbiting Earth, Ambassador Krell met with the Imperial Governor. Something is wrong, Krell said. Resource production is down 12%. Our sensors detect unusual power fluctuations. The governor dismissed her concerns. The humans are weak. 20 years of imperial rule has broken their spirit. These are just equipment malfunctions. I'm not so sure, Krell replied. I've studied their history. They adapt. They endure. I recommend increasing our military presence. The Empress would not waste ships on such a primitive world, the governor said. We have only 50 warships here. That's more than enough to control these humans. Krell looked out at the blue planet below. I hope you're right. In a secret facility in Australia, Dr. Elizabeth Warren put the finishing touches on her greatest creation. The Nova weapon system would change the course of the war to come. She had spent 20 years perfecting it. Run the final test, she told her team. They activated the system. A small asteroid in a secure test chamber was completely vaporized, leaving not even dust behind. Elizabeth nodded with satisfaction. Send word to Admiral Chen. Tell him the Nova system is ready for installation on all ships. The day of humanity's revelation approached. After 20 years of appearing broken and subjugated, they were about to show the Xeraxian Empire what humans were truly capable of building. 2,000 supercarriers, each more powerful than the mightiest Xeraxian warship, waited in hiding throughout the solar system. The countdown to freedom had begun. The day of the annual tribute ceremony arrived. The massive Xeraxian flagship hung in orbit above Earth. Its dark hull stretched for miles, covered with weapons that could destroy entire cities. Smaller Xeraxian ships surrounded it, their green engines glowing against the blackness of space. Inside the flagship's grand hall, Empress Vexalia sat on her crystal throne. She stood 8 feet tall, her scaled skin shimmering with patterns of light. Her crown of living crystal pulsed with energy. Around her stood the high commanders of the Xeraxian Empire, all watching with smug satisfaction as the humans prepared to deliver their tribute. Admiral William Chen walked slowly toward the throne. At 67, he moved with careful dignity. He wore the simple gray uniform that the Xeraxians had approved for human officials. Behind him, 10 humans carried boxes of rare Earth minerals and data crystals containing Earth's technological discoveries. Empress Vexalia, William said, bowing his head slightly. I bring you Earth's annual tribute and our pledge of continued loyalty to the glorious Xeraxian Empire. The Empress made a sound like distant thunder, the Xeraxian equivalent of a pleased laugh. Your world has learned its place well, human. 20 years under our guidance has improved your primitive species. William kept his face blank, hiding the fire that burned inside him. Indeed, Your Majesty, we have learned much in 20 years. He stepped forward and activated a small device in his hand. A holographic display appeared between him and the Empress. It showed the familiar image of Earth. As always, we offer our complete report on Earth's resources and production, William said. The Empress waved a clawed hand dismissively. Your production has decreased. The governor reports unusual power fluctuations. Explain this failure. William smiled for the first time. I would be happy to explain. Computer, expand view. The holographic display zoomed out rapidly, showing not just Earth, but the entire solar system. Suddenly, new images appeared. Hidden shipyards on Mars, in the asteroid belt beneath Europa's ice inside hollowed-out moons, and most shocking of all, massive ships rising from Earth's oceans emerging from underground bunkers and decloaking in orbit. What is this? The Empress hissed, rising from her throne. This, Your Majesty, is what humans have been building for the past 20 years, William said, his voice strong and clear. 2,000 supercarriers, each one more powerful than your flagship. The Xeraxian guards moved toward William, weapons raised. Their shots passed through him, revealing that he was only a hologram. The real William Chen was safely aboard the USS Liberty, now emerging from its hiding place beneath the Atlantic Ocean. On the holographic display, the supercarriers took formation. They were enormous, 5 kilometers long, with sleek designs that combined beauty and power. Their hulls were painted with the flags of Earth's nations and the phoenix symbol of the resistance. Impossible, the Empress screamed. Your species is primitive. You cannot build such things. The hologram of William smiled. You should have studied our history more carefully. Humans have one unique quality. When we are threatened, when we are oppressed, we don't just survive, we create, we build, we overcome. On Earth, in the underground command center beneath the ruins of Denver, President Michelle Rodriguez stood before a camera that broadcast to every screen on Earth and to the Xeraxian ship. People of Earth, she said, her voice steady and strong. For 20 years we have endured Xeraxian rule. We have worked in their mines. We have given them our water and minerals. We have appeared broken and defeated, but secretly we have prepared. Today we show the galaxy that humanity will never be enslaved. Around the world, humans emerged from hiding. They seized Xeraxian outposts and communication centers. Weapons that had been hidden for years were now used against the alien overseers. In space, the first wave of supercarriers formed a defensive ring around Earth. Fleet Admiral Paul Jackson stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty, watching as his tactical display showed more ships joining the formation. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said his second-in-command, Captain Amy Sutton. Paul nodded. "Activate shields. Prepare weapon systems, but hold fire unless fired upon." The Xeraxian ships in orbit moved to attack positions. Their green energy, weapons fired at the human vessels. But when the beams hit the shields designed by Ryan Phillips, something amazing happened. The shields didn't just block the attacks, they absorbed the energy, glowing brighter with each hit. On the Empress's flagship, alarms blared as sensors registered new jump points forming. Xeraxian reinforcements arrived, pouring through space, from distant parts of the Empire. Hundreds of Xeraxian warships appeared, their weapons charging. "Destroy them all," the Empress commanded. "Show these primitives the full might of the Xeraxian Empire." The first Xeraxian attack squadron, 20 ships strong, moved toward Earth. They fired their most powerful weapons at the human supercarriers. The humans didn't dodge. Their shields flared brilliant blue as they absorbed the energy. "Return fire," Paul ordered calmly. The USS Liberty fired a single beam of concentrated energy. It cut through 3 Xeraxian ships at once, splitting them apart like paper. The other human ships fired similar weapons, and in seconds the entire attack squadron was destroyed. In the Xeraxian flagship's command center, the Imperial governor watched in horror as the sensor displays showed the destruction of their ships. "Impossible," he whispered. "Their technology, and it's beyond ours." Ambassador Krell stood nearby, her face unreadable. "I warned you. Humans are not like other species we have conquered. They adapt, they build, and now they have built something that can destroy us." On the USS Defiance, Olivia Phillips piloted her supercarrier through a complex maneuver, avoiding Xeraxian fire while positioning her ship to protect a vulnerable section of Earth's atmosphere. Her parents' inventions, the shield technology and the Athena battle computer, worked perfectly, giving her ship capabilities beyond anything the Xeraxians had ever seen. "Squadron 3, form up on me," she commanded. "We need to keep them away from the North American airspace." 10 more supercarriers moved into position around her. Together, they created an impenetrable barrier that the Xeraxian ships couldn't break through. In the underground command center, John Miller and Kate Donovan watched the battle unfold on massive screens. After 20 years of planning, of hiding, of building in secret, their moment had finally arrived. "It's working," Kate said, tears in her eyes. "We're actually doing it." John nodded, his face solemn. "This is just the beginning. The Empress won't surrender easily. This war has only just begun." Throughout the solar system, humanity's hidden fleet revealed itself. Supercarriers emerged from Jupiter's clouds, from Saturn's rings, from hidden bases on distant moons. Each one moved into position, creating a defensive network around human territories. The Empress watched in furious disbelief as her ships were destroyed one after another. Her claws dug into the arms of her throne, cracking the ancient material. "How?" she demanded of no one in particular. "How did primitives build such weapons?" The hologram of William Chen appeared before her again. "You gave us 20 years, Your Majesty. You should have killed us all when you had the chance." News of humanity's supercarriers spread quickly across the galaxy. On thousands of worlds ruled by the Xeraxian Empire, people watched recordings of the battle. They saw human ships defeating the Xeraxians who had oppressed them for so long. For many species, it was the first time they felt hope in generations. On the planet Nox Prime, the Volturians looked like tall, blue humanoids with 4 arms. They had been slaves of the Empire for 300 years. When they saw the human ships destroying Xeraxian vessels, they began to whisper among themselves. The whispers grew louder until they became shouts. Within days, the Volturians rose, up against their Xeraxian overseers, overwhelming them with sheer numbers. The Empress was furious. She summoned Ambassador Krell to her private chambers aboard the Imperial flagship, which had retreated to a safe distance from Earth. "Fix this," the Empress hissed. "Go to the humans. Offer them whatever they want. Just end this rebellion before it spreads further." Krell bowed low. As you command, Empress. But the humans may not be interested in negotiations now. They have the advantage. Then lie to them, the Empress said, her scaled skin flashing with anger patterns. Promise them anything. We need time to bring our dreadnought fleet from the outer systems. Krell's shuttle approached Earth under a flag of truce. She was escorted by human fighters to a space station in Earth orbit. The station had been built by Xeraxians as a control center, but now it flew the human flag. Commander Nicole Rodriguez waited for Krell in the station's conference room. At 38, Nicole had grown up under Xeraxian rule. She had joined the resistance as a teenager and now served as humanity's chief diplomat. Ambassador Krell, Nicole said coolly as the Xeraxian entered. What brings you here? Krell tried to look humble, which was difficult for a 7-foot-tall reptilian alien. I come with an offer of peace from the Empress herself. She recognizes the impressive achievements of humanity and wishes to establish a new relationship based on mutual respect. Nicole's face showed no emotion. What exactly are you offering? Full independence for Earth and all human colonies, Krell said. Recognition of your territorial claims in this solar system. A non-aggression pact. Trade agreements favorable to humans. Nicole studied the ambassador carefully. And what does the Empress want in return? Only peace, Krell said, and perhaps a sharing of your shield technology. Nicole actually laughed at this. You came here to ask for our technology? After 20 years of treating us like animals? The Empress regrets the past treatment of your species, Krell said. She did not understand your potential. Nicole stood up. Tell your Empress that humanity will accept nothing less than full independence for Earth and all human territories. We are not interested in sharing our technology, and we know about the dreadnought fleet she's gathering. This meeting is over. As Krell's shuttle departed, Nicole contacted President Rodriguez. It was a delaying tactic just as we expected. Their main fleet is coming. The president nodded. Then we need to be ready. How long do we have? Our intelligence suggests 2 weeks at most, Nicole replied. Throughout the solar system, humans prepared for the largest space battle in galactic history. The Supercarrier fleet moved into defensive positions around Jupiter, whose massive gravity would give them a tactical advantage. Captain Eric Davis stood on the bridge of the USS Horizon, one of the newest supercarriers equipped with Dr. Warren's Nova weapon system. At 35, Eric was one of the most skilled tactical commanders in the fleet. His ship led a squadron of 20 supercarriers that would form the front line of defense. All ships report ready, Captain, said his tactical officer, Lieutenant Ben Wilson. Eric nodded. Begin final weapons check. I want the Nova system at full capacity when the Xeraxians arrive. On the civilian habitats of Europa, Dr. Elizabeth, Warren supervised the evacuation of non-essential personnel. The massive underground cities that had been built in secret could house millions, but they were still vulnerable if the Xeraxians targeted Jupiter's moons directly. We need to move faster, Elizabeth told her assistant. The dreadnought fleet will be here within days. Across the solar system, the mood was tense but determined. Humans had spent 20 years preparing for this moment. Their ships were superior. Their weapons were more advanced. But the Xeraxians had numbers and the desperation of a wounded empire. On Earth, assassins sent by the Empress targeted key human leaders. A poisoned dart struck Senator Kate Donovan as she addressed a crowd in the ruins of Chicago. The 80-year-old woman who had helped plan the resistance for 2 decades fell to the ground, dead before her body hit the pavement. Her daughter, Lieutenant Grace Donovan, was serving with the Ground Defense Forces in Australia when she received the news. She wept briefly, then returned to her duties with renewed determination. The Xeraxians had taken her mother, just as they had taken so much from humanity. She would make them pay. In the vast emptiness of space beyond Neptune, sensors detected the arrival of the Xeraxian dreadnought fleet. 5,000 ships jumped into the solar system at once, their engines burning green against the darkness. At their center was the Empress's new flagship, twice the size of her previous vessel and bristling with weapons. Admiral Paul Jackson called an emergency meeting of fleet commanders. "They've arrived sooner than expected," he said. "All ships to battle stations. This is what we've prepared for." The Battle of Jupiter began 3 days later. The Xeraxian fleet approached from multiple vectors trying to surround the human forces. But Admiral Jackson had anticipated this strategy. The supercarriers moved in complex patterns, using Jupiter's gravity to accelerate and change direction in ways the Xeraxians couldn't match. Captain Eric Davis led the first engagement, his squadron meeting a force of 300 Xeraxian ships, head-on. The Xeraxians fired everything they had, filling space with green energy beams and explosive projectiles. The human shields glowed blue as they absorbed the energy, growing stronger with each hit. "Nova system charged to maximum," reported Lieutenant Wilson. "Ready to fire on your command." Eric hesitated for a moment. The Nova weapon was the most powerful device humans had ever created. Once fired, it would change the course of the battle, and perhaps the war. "Target their command ship," Eric ordered. "Fire." A beam of pure white energy shot from the USS Horizon. It cut through space brighter than a star. When it hit the Xeraxian command ship, the vessel didn't just explode. It seemed to fold in on itself, collapsing into nothing. The ships around it were pulled into the artificial gravity well, 20 Xeraxian vessels destroyed in seconds. On the Xeraxian flagship, the Empress watched in horror as her fleet's right flank collapsed. "What was that weapon?" she demanded. "Unknown, Your Majesty," replied her science officer. "It appears to create a temporary singularity. Nothing in our database matches it." The Empress hissed in fury. "Target their civilian habitats. If we can't defeat their ships, we'll force their surrender by threatening their people." A squadron of Xeraxian ships broke through the human lines, heading for the habitats on Europa where millions of civilians lived. Captain Davis saw this and made a decision that would change the battle. "All ships in Squadron 5 form on me," he ordered. "We need to intercept those ships before they reach Europa." His supercarrier accelerated, pushing its engines beyond safe limits. The rest of his squadron followed. They positioned themselves between the Xeraxian ships and Europa, creating a shield of vessels. The Xeraxians fired everything they had. The human shields held, but damage reports flooded in, systems failing, hull breaches. But still, they held their position, protecting the civilians behind them. Captain Davis knew what he had to do. "Charge the Nova system to overload," he ordered. "We'll take them all with us." His crew looked at him with understanding in their eyes. They had trained for this moment. They were ready to make the ultimate sacrifice. The USS Horizon began to glow from within as the Nova system charged beyond its limits. The Xeraxian ships, sensing danger, tried to retreat, but it was too late. The light of a new star briefly outshone Jupiter itself as Captain Eric Davis and his crew gave their lives to save millions. 3 months after the Battle of Jupiter, the war had spread across the galaxy. The sacrifice of Captain Eric Davis and the crew of the USS Horizon became a rallying cry for both humans and other species fighting against Xeraxian rule. The battle had ended in a stalemate, with both sides suffering heavy losses, but humanity had shown it could stand against the full might of the Empire. Admiral Lisa Wright stood on the bridge of the USS Freedom, looking at the holographic display of the galaxy. She had come out of retirement at age 70 to lead humanity's boldest move yet. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said her second-in-command, Captain Frank Bradley. Lisa nodded. "Begin the jump sequence. Take us into the heart of the Empire." 500 human supercarriers activated their jump drives at once. Space folded around them, and in an instant, they traveled thousands of light years. They appeared in orbit, around Telos Prime, one of the Empire's most important worlds. The Xeraxian defense fleet scrambled to respond, but they were caught completely by surprise. The human ships didn't open fire immediately. Instead, they broadcast a message to the planet below. "People of Telos Prime," Lisa's voice echoed across the alien world. "We are not here to conquer or destroy. We offer you protection from the Empress and her forces. Any world that wishes to declare independence from the Empire will have Earth's support." On dozens of worlds across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. Human fleets appeared in orbit, offering protection to any planet willing to break from the Empire. Many accepted immediately. The Xeraxian Empire, which had ruled for thousands of years, began to crumble in a matter of weeks. On the Xeraxian homeworld, Empress Vex'Alia raged in her palace. Reports of rebellion and defection came from all corners of her once mighty empire. Her advisors cowered before her as she destroyed priceless artifacts in her fury. "Find a way to destroy these humans," she screamed. "I want their planet reduced to ash." General Zora, the Empress's chief military advisor, watched with growing concern. The tall, battle-scarred Xeraxian had served the Empire for 200 years. He had seen many species conquered, many rebellions crushed. But this was different. "Your Majesty," Zora said carefully, "perhaps we should consider a true peace with the humans. They have proven themselves worthy adversaries." The Empress turned on him, her scales flashing with rage. "You suggest surrender? Treason." Zora stood his ground. "I suggest survival, Your Majesty. This war cannot be won. The humans have superior technology, and now they have allies. Every day we fight, we lose more worlds." Other military leaders in the room nodded in agreement. The Empress saw this and realized something terrible. She was losing the support of her own people. That night, General Zora met with other high-ranking Xeraxians in secret. "The Empress has lost her way," he told them. "Her obsession with destroying the humans blinds her to the collapse of our empire. We must act for the good of our people." On Earth, President Michelle Rodriguez received a secret communication from General Zora. The Xeraxian proposed a meeting between human representatives and those who wished to end the war. The president consulted with her advisors, then agreed to the meeting. Admiral William Chen led the human delegation to the neutral world of Kaldor. They traveled aboard the USS Liberty, escorted by 20 supercarriers. General Zora met them with a small group of Xeraxian leaders. "The Empress does not know we are here," Zora explained. "She would consider this treason. But many of us believe this war must end before it destroys both our civilizations." William nodded. "We did not build our fleet for conquest. We built it for freedom. If you are truly interested in peace, we are willing to listen." As they negotiated, news reached them that the Empress had discovered Zora's betrayal. She had launched her palace ship, a massive vessel the size of a small moon, and was heading to Earth herself. She intended to destroy the human homeworld, even if it meant her own death. "We must stop her," Zora said urgently. "If she attacks Earth, this war will never end." Together, the human fleet and Zora's loyal ships raced to intercept the Empress before she could reach Earth. They found her palace ship near the edge of the solar system, surrounded by her most fanatical followers. Final chance to surrender. William broadcast to the Empress's ship. Her only response was to fire on the human vessels. The battle was brief but intense. The combined forces of humans and Zora's Xeraxians quickly overwhelmed the Empress's defenses. Her palace ship was crippled, its engines destroyed and weapons disabled. William led a boarding party onto the palace ship. They fought their way through corridors of crystal and metal until they reached the throne room. There they found the Empress, still defiant even in defeat. "Kill me then," she hissed at William. "Prove that humans are just as bloodthirsty as you claim we are." William shook his head. "We're not here to kill you. You will stand trial for your crimes against Earth and countless other worlds. But the killing stops today." 1 month later, representatives from 27 species gathered in the rebuilt United Nations building in New York. Once bitter enemies, humans and Xeraxians, now sat side by side. General Zora, acting as the new leader of his people, signed the Galactic Concordat alongside President Daniel Washington, who had been elected after Michelle Rodriguez stepped down. "We could have built an empire of our own," Daniel said as he addressed the gathered delegates. "Our ships could have conquered as the Xeraxians once did, but humanity chooses a different path. We propose a federation of equals, not an empire, ruled by the strongest, but an alliance that protects the rights of all." The signing was broadcast across the galaxy. On thousands of worlds, people celebrated the dawn of a new era. The age of empire had ended. The age of cooperation had begun. Admiral Lisa Wright stood on the observation deck of the USS Hope, the newest human supercarrier. Unlike the warships that came before it, The Hope had been designed for exploration rather than battle. Its massive hull contained laboratories, diplomatic facilities, and habitat spaces for dozens of different species. "Course plotted, Admiral," said Captain Olivia Phillips, who had been given command of this historic mission. "We're ready to depart." Lisa smiled as she looked at the crew on the bridge. Humans worked alongside Xeraxians, Volturians, and other species that had once been enemies. "Take us out, Captain. Let's see what's waiting for us out there." Back on Earth, Dr. Alan Foster watched as construction crews began the process of converting most of the supercarrier fleet. The massive ships that had saved humanity were being transformed into generation ships, vessels designed to carry settlers to distant stars. "We built them to fight," Alan said to his old friend John Miller. "Now they'll help us explore." John nodded, his eyes reflecting the light of the setting sun. "The Empress never understood what makes humans special. It's not that we're strong or clever or determined, though we are all those things. It's that we can imagine something better than conquest, something better than empire." Across the galaxy, the message spread. Underestimate humanity at your peril. For in just 20 years of oppression, they had built enough power to challenge the greatest empire the stars had ever known. And when victory was theirs, they chose cooperation over domination. The age of the Xeraxian Empire had ended. The age of humanity had just begun.